questions and stuff. We're probably going to end up having a speed round the last 7 minutes of it, which can be fun and stuff. And we're going to show a little movie later, a movie made by KROB's mother about KROB. I've never seen it, so I don't know what to say about it, but I was interested to see it, so I leaned on him and I guilted him out, and he cracked under the pressure. He broke. Snapped like a twig, ladies and gentlemen. And so there's the mother, and the film is in the VCR, and at 11:30 we're going to show it, and you're all going to stick around and watch it and buy lots of drinks. That's how it's going to be. I'm in complete control. You're going to do exactly as I say. Thanks for coming. Again, we're going to start the show in just a couple minutes. We'll get our tech shit together. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, KROB is at the helm and is performing music for your dining and dancing pleasure. We're going to get to these in a moment with Dr. Howell. Just a couple mere seconds, we're going to get this thing started. In the meantime, listen to this. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, every week here at the Ask Dr. Howell show, we've been, me and Hal have been doing shows for 7 or 8 years, but we've been doing this show for probably almost 3 now. Every week we offer you a theme in which you can embrace if you'd like. Tonight's theme is work. You don't have to embrace the theme, you can ask any question about anything that you could ever possibly want. Especially paleontology, which has been lacking of late. People forget that Hal is an amateur paleontologist, which is 2 really big words right next to each other, which is important. But tonight's theme is work, of which I'm sure that no one here is a stranger to, except Scott Peel. And so the themes are chosen by KROB. He picks the themes, and last week's theme sucked. It was fear. It sucked. And I'm constantly reminding him of that. I hope that he's going to make a comeback with work. But, you know, Dreams was 2 weeks before that. Was an excellent theme. You never know. I thought that was going to fail miserably, but that was great. And fear sucked. But so you never know what it's going to be. But we're gonna do it here. Is this? Whoa! We're out of the KROB film version. We're now to the Tyler surfing the web during the show. Tyler's got a great job. He comes up here, sets up a couple microphones, and I continue to pay him, and he surfs the internet while we insult each other talking to microphones. Pretty good. That's the Ask Dr. Howell show, ladies and gentlemen. It would be nothing without the inimitable, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Howell. Here it is.
Welcome, friends, once again to the Dr. Howell Show. As usual, we have our array of mind-breaking special effects and special features to entertain you, perhaps to puzzle or trouble you. But in the end, all will be resolved in a calm passion of mind. Or somebody.
You like your new desk, Hal?
Well, it's a little bit on the small side, but...
It's a keg of beer in my guitar case, okay? It's the best we can do.
All right, it will serve then. I see many familiar faces here, but there may be some who still need a little bit of remedial instruction on how the Ask Dr. Howell show works. So let's hurry through the obligatory explanation. All it is putting the question with a small gratuity for me, Dr. Howell, in the envelope and placing the envelope in question in the pitcher on Chicken's desk. But you don't even have to pay. This is advertised as a free show. However, if you don't pay, we will use these balls to answer your question. First, the traditional 8-ball. Its answers are short and laconic. Everyone knows them. And then we will flavor those answers with the now a-go-go 8-ball from the 1970s. So your question will be thoroughly answered, but I recommend that you have the Dr. Howell answer. And if our question is something that we love inordinately, you get a free shot of Fernet The Miracle liquor, distilled from beets.
Miracle that anybody would actually drink this garbage.
So I think that's all in the name of explication that we need to have, unless you have something to add, Chicken.
I have so much to add, but no one wants to hear any of it. We're just going to move right along, because we only have a short time before we have to show this film. We don't want the show to
That's
go...
right. You all want to stay around to see the Emmy Award-winning KROB story, which won many distinguished prizes.
It won many film festivals in 1980 when it did the circuit, and it did indeed win an Emmy after appearing on the air in 1982.
It was shown at Lincoln Center in New York to cheering audiences who gave it a standing ovation.
Standing on their feet. Not like the circus where fainting is a falling ovation. That's a different...
Indeed not.
But the movie is called, it's not the KROB show. That's the next movie that we're going to do, starring David Kay. No, it's going to be, this movie...
Here's looking at you, kid.
Here's looking at you, kid.
Is that really the title of the film?
Title of it. Well, we're going to see. We're going to see the funny.
Derivative, but it has a certain charm.
We have a question here from a questioner, and they inquisit as follows. Why does my freaky boss, who cries at the drop of a hat, rub her eyebrows off? And how can I get her fired? Yeah.
Well,
Nice start.
nameless one. It does sound as if there is a little bit of a crisis at the workplace between you and your boss. It could be that she has a mannerism which is like that of biting the nails or pulling out little tufts of hair, a mannerism that we refer to as a neurosis.
You know, they pull the hair out, they pluck it,
Yes.
and then most of them, I know this because I knew someone who did this, eat the end.
Well, you have to dispose of it.
The fact is, the end though, not the whole hair, just that little rooty.
Your boss, as you say, cries at the drop of a hat. This is a severe indicator of that possible neurosis. However, perhaps you should stop dropping hats in her presence. But there is another explanation. The human eyebrow is a domain inhabited by a tiny insect that only lives inside the human eyebrow. And these insect infestations sometimes get a little bit out of hand. They chew too deeply, and then the brow itches, and the hand goes into action, attempting vainly to scratch the itch. A little bit of alcohol on the eyebrow tamps these critters down, though not permanently, since they are among the ones who live on man. How can you get her fired? Well, a word to her superiors, and I assume she has them, about her eyebrow plucking and scratching mania might be the first step.
You can also go to her computer terminal and punch up a bunch of pedophile websites. It's over quickly. Whoever asked that question deserves a shot of Fernet. I'm willing to venture a guess that yes, it's you. I was wrong. I was gonna guess it was that guy in the back, but it's you.
Be careful not to hit your head on the projector coming up.
Although it's funny if you would.
We laugh, but we also feel your pain. And I hope your boss isn't that terrible. You might be replaced, she might be replaced by another boss with mannerisms you could tolerate even less.
How's that? Fernet. It's good.
Perhaps live and let live is
Beets.
the best
Fermented
solution.
beets. It's good. It's Italian. It's imported.
Yes, Fernet Branca, whoa, they call it.
All right, Chair.
We have no time to delay, so let's rush along.
In what contexts would it be most and least appropriate to use the erg as a unit of measurement in describing or estimating the activity of Sisyphus in Hades? Whoa!
Well, sir, first of all, let's talk about that erg. Whenever a brawny fellow, like someone working for the Beacon's moving company, hefts a hefty television or refrigerator, he makes a sound sounding something like erg. But the erg is a basic unit of work measurement in physics. But in Hades, there is no progress, only stasis. So physics doesn't apply there. Sisyphus is the poor fellow who has to roll a huge boulder up the top of a hill, but just as it gets there, it always rolls back down. You know, the ancient Greeks who came up with this had a horror of futility, and so do we on the Ask Dr. Hal show. But still, we get questions like this.
Okay, what are the 3 most dangerous jobs? Right, yeah, it is.
Well, there are many jobs that are quite dangerous. To work in a contaminated area of a sealed-off secret hospital that studies the effects of biological agents on unwitting human subjects is dangerous indeed if you don't tighten your face mask. And then, of course, there is the job of tightrope walker over Niagara Falls, which the famous Blondin successfully accomplished, but many others did not, and fell to their death in the churning, foaming pools below. But surely no one would argue that the most dangerous job of all, rats, we can't use that one. Well, a minor but dangerous job, since you work around dangerous solvents and other things, is to work in a gas station. That's right, to work in a gas station, and we have a little bit of film on that, so let's go to that film now.
Let's get to it. Dangerous solvents, we have
Many people like the smell of gasoline, but it's not good for you. It certainly isn't recommended by health food stores and like that. Also, you're out on your feet constantly in the blistering sun, and you're taking the public's sass, which you have to do if you're in a job where you meet the public.
You gotta watch the window.
This bruiser here, you don't want to have to talk to him. Oh, he's the guy who works in the gas station. His name is Bob, and he works for Exxon. I think that tells you a little bit about him. The battery can always shower you with battery acid, or the radiator can splash boiling radiator water in your face. But an overwhelming danger could simply be, as I said, dealing with the public. And who knows how Bob here, on his off days, compensates for the many slings and arrows of outrageous fortune which dealing with the public presents. And of course there are the co-workers, perhaps the most irritating thing of all to try to deal with. They who have an opinion on everything and know nothing about anything. And so there you are, one of the more dangerous jobs. And we will discuss other dangerous employments later on in the program.
It says 9 o'clock. Why are you late for work? I think this guy is insinuating
That we should be here at 9 o'clock?
Well, just because I wrote 9 o'clock on the email doesn't mean that has any bearing in reality.
That's right, folks. You shouldn't believe anything you read in print, particularly anything that's printed in an email or on the internet. But one must give an earlier time than one actually yields, because
You want us to sell any drinks?
fill the house, get everyone in the mood by having them socialize.
They get them drunk, or they're gonna watch the show
to arrive at the moment the show begins. Are you that efficient? If so, I salute you. But I suspect you are merely peevish because what you expected did not ultimately transpire. Who knows? Something better may eventuate than what you hoped for. And now you know that 9 o'clock is only a very general figure.
The guy is pissed off because he's the guy who came here at 8:45 to get a good seat and has been drinking water since then. That's why you're getting tired. You're like, come on up here, have a shot on me. Come on.
Now you're getting free alcohol. Things are looking up.
Come on. Put your water down and come up here and have a shot. I realize you came all the way from Concord to come out here and enjoy the show.
I might add that I have often come in at 9 o'clock, but the show doesn't start then, so it seems futile. We all three have to be present and ready. KROB, Chicken, and myself. And that usually doesn't occur until well after 10 p.m.
Okay, you got your brain on?
I'm trying.
Okay, in a society permeated by alienation from both the product and process of our labor, how can we realize our true nature as species beings? Whoa! Whoa!
Well, there's more than
Sorry.
one way. Hey, where'd you get this? This is absolutely blank. Oh, it's on the other side.
It's on the back.
All right, all right. A society
Need more
permeated
room
by
for those big
alienation. Well, sure it is. And why is it permeated by alienation? Because there are so many people, an overwhelming, swelling population that nature never intended. But the species does intend it, because the species wants the biggest gene pool possible. If we have this gene pool to splash about in, our evolutionary success, the species thinks will be assured. But aside from all that, what we're supposed to be working at is hunting mammoths, eating grubs and worms and berries, and running 20 miles a day. But hardly anyone does this anymore. Instead, we are offered jobs which are not nearly so fulfilling. These are, in a sense, busy work, and they do not build up the architecture of the soul or the body. That is why one must avoid this kind of so-called work at all costs, and instead work at what is valuable and meaningful to the individual. Remember, the Church of the Subgenius teaches that so-called work in this society is actually a conspiracy to make you buy false slack and to take away the original slack that you were born with. Slack being the opposite of tension. Leisure, the basis of culture. It's in your spare time that you come up with anything that's worth doing. Working for yourself is a delight and a joy. It adds years to your life. But working for the man, as it were, is not a joy and subtracts those golden years.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Right,
But Bernice. But Bernice has a question that's it's very outdated. It's an old-fashioned question.
well, we'll give it an old-fashioned answer. What is it?
She asks, a woman's work is never done. Is this true?
That's part of an old couplet, which is indeed hoary and ancient. Man's work from sun to sun, but woman's work is never done. Well, perhaps no one's work is ever really done. And as I said before, we don't want it to be done. We just want it to be manageable. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. Yes, it's true. A woman's work is never done. But it's also true that a man's work is never done. Come on, let's not have this absurd discrimination between the sexes. Each, in its own way, exhausts itself. And this should not be. There should be oceans of leisure and a tiny bit of work to punctuate that.
Oceans of leisure.
Sure.
I'd like to drown in an ocean of leisure.
That may happen.
I have a $5 question here. Thank you very much for your $5 question.
Well, let's hope a $5 answer is available. We will do our part.
Sometimes they put extra money in because the question sucks. Let's hope.
Is this one of those occasions?
I don't know. Let's see. I haven't read it yet. How does
the chicken get inside the egg?
Poison regression work? Possum?
Possum?
Poison? P-O-3-S-S-O-N.
Poisson.
What's that?
Poisson.
Poisson? Is this some French guy? Who wrote this? Anyhow, how does this French word regression work in a multi-level growth curve model? Specifically, how does one implement constrain? Their penmanship is not very good. And my 7th grade education really starts to kick in on these big words like constrain. Okay, how does Poisson regression work in a multi-level growth curve model? And specifically, how does one implement constrained ceilings that vary from level 2 unit to level 2 unit. Remember I said about the $5 things?
Yeah.
Remember?
Poisson
Level 2
regression. I thought that was a sort of edible French snack, you know, like poissons, crudités.
Poisson regression.
Yeah, well, of
Maybe
course,
that's like
no, that
protein
protein doesn't
deficiency.
travel down the esophagus, but it wants to come back up. But the regression, how do you make it a multi-level growth curve model? It works by finessing the data. When you get diagrams this complicated, they rarely bear any relation to any level of reality. But this says specifically, how does one implement constrained ceilings? That's actually, you know, in this case, I before E, except after C. That vary from level 2, uncut. 1, I'm sorry, level 2 somewhere to level 2, oh, unit. Level 2 unit to 1 to level 2.
Between the level 2 units, I think that
Well,
we're trying to
if
insinuate.
it moves from level 2
Synchronicity.
unit to level 2 unit, then there is no variation. So you cannot implement constrained ceilings that vary when there is no variation. Unless, as I said, you finesse the data of the Poisson regression. It sounds very intimidating. And you ought to be able to cook any books with terms like that. But not too often. Not too often. You won't get away with it forever.
But be careful. Oh look, there it is now. See? Level 2 unit to level 2 unit.
Well,
See, that
obviously,
guy has a croissant in his right hand.
croissant, but not a poisson. Also, the level 2 unit appears to be the second story, which I see has the bathroom. You have to climb the stairs to get to the bathroom, but I suppose...
It's illegal now.
Yes, sociology has been making giant strides.
Okay, here's a question from Betty. Betty, yeah.
Betty.
Dear Dr. Howe, which is something that no one ever does. They never say Dear Dr. Howe. They never
Well,
do
the
it.
fact is, I am not near to these people.
No,
I wish I were, but
You're near, though. You're very close.
I'm physically close, propinquitous.
How much do you make as a doctor?
That's right, the evidence is in value. The pile of greenbacks that you see is...
And which college did you go to? Because I want to be a doctor like you if I grow up. I mean, when I grow up. This is Betty's question. Unfortunately, when I looked in the envelope, all I found in the envelope was indeed her question.
Oh, that's too bad.
So we're going to have to modify our question into something that the 8 ball can answer.
But the 8 ball always invariably answers.
So I think that we should modify our question to, will I ever grow up?
No. How much do you make as a doctor? But
The 8 ball's not going to answer that. What's it say? Give me that.
What it says, this 8 ball is a terrible shape. It says something or other, try again. Try again is the second part.
No, it says, get a job, loser, cheapskate.
That wasn't the way I read it. And now the more modernized 8 ball with its smart alecky answers. Boy, these are both in their dotage.
Let me help you see.
I can't read this.
It says.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, that's enough like that. I make a sure or surety as a doctor. It is, in fact, this pile of greenbacks that you see to my right. At which college I went to, well, this has to wait the placing of money in the envelope for a specific answer like that.
I have a question here.
Unless I want to be general and say that college of hard knocks. All right, it's a Chicken John question. Sometimes in our show, certain questions are for his field of expertise. And here is the question. Are you ready, Chicken?
Yeah, I'm ready.
What's with the bus?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick it up tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
I gotta, now that I got all the money together, I gotta pick it up tomorrow. So thanks, Sean.
Well, there you are. The bus will run, sun will rise, life will go on.
Not now. The whole ice cream thing went out of control. We just spent, we acquired a green tortoise bus this week. We did. The Odeon bar, as an entity, has acquired a green tortoise bus, which sleeps 50, they assure us. Yeah. The hippies promised me that it sleeps 50. I said, yeah, 50 people that are married to each other.
And if they weren't when they got on, they will be when they get off.
For 50, okay, 50 people are married. How many people does it sleep that don't like each other? 4, okay.
That's a good distinction there. Let's move along quickly.
What is a surefire way to get my boss fired?
Didn't we have this?
It's written by Ina, the bartender.
Well, we already did the answer with the eyebrow mites. You're sure this is from Ina?
No, I was kidding.
You
That
might
was a joke.
recognize her head. The whole business about the pedophile connection to the internet is a useful suggestion. But why should I, Dr. Howell, recommend a malicious course of action? No, that would rebound unfairly on me to my karmic detriment. So, a surefire way to get your boss fired is to surpass your boss in every way so that you become the boss. You become the little tin horn dictator with your boot on the boss's neck instead of the other way around. And you do it by the application of the subject of tonight's show, work.
Work for it, bitch.
Endless, back-breaking, hard work. But is it really worth it? Is anything worth it? Even the subjection and humiliation of your boss? Here at the Dr. Howell Show, we say, no. Relax. Lighten up. Enact revenge in your mind. And allow yourself to walk unencumbered on the sunlight.
There you go. Unencumbered in the sunlight.
Well, wearing what the law decrees.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a show-stopping question.
Uh-oh.
It's from David Capurro.
It would be.
David Capurro, failed yo-yo master.
Perhaps we should say the once and future yo-yo master.
The future, again, one more remaster yo-yo guy.
You know, the yo-yo itself goes to the end of its arc and then returns. Well, what's the question? We're supposed to be in a big hurry tonight.
Just how does it all work?
Insert tab A into slot B.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Howell.
All right. Let's have the next one as we go.
Why is Celine Dion allowed to work?
Some wise person once said there was no underestimating the taste of the American public. I believe that will stand for an answer.
That was it?
Sure. First, no comment.
Why don't you work? You know not what you speak of.
I do.
Grasshopper.
This job is harder than digging post holes in the hot sun. I sweat blood to come up with these answers.
Can you imagine the amount of years? Years. Probably Hal's probably elder.
The weary years. Yes.
Elder of most people here.
Well, you don't need to rub that in.
But the years and years and years of preparation that he did accidentally
Perhaps the years
Prepare for this show?
have not been kind to me, but at any rate, I do labor at my various projects, and anything that you don't enjoy is the kind of work that you want to avoid, but even I have projects like that, so appearances in this case are deceiving. I do and must work. But I have a clear philosophical direction, which is to avoid these circumstances and that variety of employment as much as possible. To this, I have dedicated my life, and that in itself is a task. Perhaps a Herculean one, but perhaps one which can be achieved. Time will tell, and when it does, perhaps even you may profit by my example.
Yeah.
Yes!
One of those from me, too. Here's a fresh one. It's from Dan. Dan, thank you for your $2 question. It's
Yes, Dan.
a fresh question. Why doesn't my TV work?
Well, your TV doesn't have to do anything but just shine pictures and sound at you, but that is its work. However, if it's not doing this, then something is preventing it from doing what it wants to and what it was created to do. It is not malicious or malevolent. It would provide you with the kind of entertainment you want if it could. Sometimes the laws of physics simply stand in the way. An old phosphor tube can blow out. How well we know this. But, you know, there are many TVs out there, and you can probably even scavenge one off the street. Your TV is telling you that it's time to be retired to the great heaven of televisions in the world of used appliances, and to return to the bosom of Philo T. Farnsworth, the father of the television set.
Philo T. Farnsworth, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to take that with you?
Sure, everyone knows. Philo T.
No one knows
Farnsworth
that
invented
except
the
you,
TV.
Al. No one knows that.
Oh, come on, there's lots of people out there know that.
Okay.
Phil Silver.
Get it?
Dr. Hal Show. Caller, you're on the air. Dr. Hal Show, are you with us?
These cold calls, the phone rings and sometimes there's not even anyone there.
Caller? Caller?
It might be a computer that dialed the number.
God damn it.
They know nothing.
Alex,
Alex?
yeah. We've had two major depressions before, in 1893 and in 1929. Which do you prefer on aesthetic grounds?
What an odd question. As if I prefer a depression of one kind to the other. But, you know, I would have to go back to the fabulous 1930s, where, although nobody had any money, New York dug up $15,000 to see King Kong on the first day in 1933 at Radio City Music Hall. Yes, one may be dabbled in the dust of the Dust Bowl or of despair, but as long as entertainment, the solace of life, is present, one can get by almost anything. And that's why we here at the Ask Dr. Hal Show feel that we provide a vital service. Even in a time when the economy is skittering off the edge of a cliff no one will acknowledge or name, we are still here to provide a small spot of joy in a life of anguish and frustration.
Let's go! I think that's a piece of the tape.
Oh, the tape is working. No, is it there?
That's not tape, that's flesh.
We're gonna keep them. Yeah, that's other people's scalps. Ooh, that was a good answer, Hal, by the way.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
like to offer a shot of Fernet to the person who asked that. Who asked that last question? The depression selection question.
Here he comes. You prefer the 1890s depression to the
1893,
1930s
definitely, yeah.
depression?
Is that your favorite depression?
Except for the one I had last week.
Whoa, your depression is about to
Well, you know
begin.
what got us out of that
This.
1890s depression was trust busting. And we need that today, actually.
I have a question here that's funny. I have a good question.
All right.
I am too overqualified for the modern service economy. How do I get over being overqualified? It's so true.
Well, your answer is you don't. You can't be over being overqualified, but you can learn some basic diplomatic skill. In this case, to dissemble and to pretend that you are not overqualified. Don't be such a show-off. Let them think that they are better than you are. Then you'll get a job right away.
This is from Will Dickman, whatever.
All right.
Make up your mind. Choose a side. Do child labor laws apply to Macaulay Culkin? And if not, how does he retain his credibility pre-pubescent status?
Prepubescent status.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you see movies where Macaulay Culkin is a child, but in reality, those movies were made some time ago, and now he's a complete adult with all the problems of an adult, exacerbated by the fact that everyone still thinks of him as a child, and he is no longer, if he ever was, cute.
You should have pity for Macaulay Culkin.
Child labor laws did, in a weak sense, apply while he was making the bucks for his family.
Please stay on the line.
But the fact is that now that he's an adult, there's no protection. I think he's not the most unfortunate person we can think of.
You want to hear a quick Macaulay Culkin story?
Now we get down to it.
When I first came to San Francisco, 1993, I did a bunch of acid with my friend, and said, "Come on, let's go for a walk." And I said, "Okay." And he took me to Golden Gate Park, but I was fucked up, and I thought that I was on some like rich person's lawn. And I was like, man, they're gonna send the Dobermans or something. This is really bad.
Beauregard, come here, boy.
And, it was like this giant lawn. It was like, wow, man, this house must be big. This lawn is, and it was like the great lawn thing, whatever. And I'm standing in the middle of it, and of course the sprinklers went on, which was, perfect timing and stuff. And there was this bright light. And so I went to this bright light, and
Go
there was
to
these,
the light.
there was these like bushes and trees, and I went through the trees, and there was these bright, impossibly bright lights. It was nighttime, and I stood there and I just screamed, "Macaulay Culkin!" And he was right there, and they were filming a movie in Golden Gate Park, and Macaulay Culkin was there. We ate the bagels from the craft table, and they kind of said, "You guys are fucked up, you have to leave." And we ran away, and we found duct tape in one of those buggies that the maintenance people drive around on. We found a lot of duct tape, and we duct taped all the statues. And that was our evening. It was a kind of a great evening. That was my first night in San Francisco. I think that's why I stayed here. Not the first night, but like the first week I was
First
here.
night, it was all fun, wasn't it?
I scream Macaulay. Every time I see Macaulay Culkin, I have to like laugh hysterically. It was a nightmare. It came true. God damn it. God damn it. Dr. Owll Show. Can you wiggle your... Are you there? Caller!
Turn that color golden down.
Alex asks, when I quit my job, should I feel bad about the mess I've left behind?
Well, Alex, no, you should not feel bad about this because you're providing busy work for whoever follows you. One of the worst things about coming to a new job is that there's often not much to do and you have to look like you're earning your keep. And it's very difficult to fake work. But if someone was considerate enough to leave an enormous mess, you can look useful from the start by cleaning it up. And just appear to be cleaning it up rapidly. Actually, you can stretch that out until you actually find out what you're supposed to be doing.
Here's an interesting question. What is the key to success in show business. How the fuck do we know?
Well, not talking about our case, which is a different case, a special case. The key to success in show business is appeal. Yes.
Mind-bending special effects.
Mind-bending special effects will only go so far. If you have no appeal, if you're somebody who nobody really likes to look at, then your career will not be a long one. But if you have this intangible appeal, this appeal of cuteness or comeliness, then half the job is already done for you. Ah, yes, so that would be the key, at least the key to starting. But unless your appeal is so overwhelming that it drives everything else before it, then you have to work at it a little bit, unlike, say, Macaulay Culkin.
Why do gods always pay shit? Does that mean like if you work in the religion industry, the pay doesn't...
Well, this is written God''S, which might mean why do those who are gods, except it also uses does, which indicates a singular. So it's only one person, and why does God's anointed always pay shit? Perhaps they feel that it's an imposition on them even to pay anything, since they are the beloved of the divinity. But you can quickly disabuse them of that by making them pay you.
You can have a shot at Fernet if you have been underpaid by God.
Or by God's representative on earth.
If you haven't got enough cash out of God...
Alright, I left out work. It was why does God's work always pay shit?
Oh, why does God's work always pay shit? Well, I'll answer that one. It's because God's work is not man's work. Man's work pays well. God's work, no one comes around to collect, and no one disperses either.
Okay, I've got a couple of Pete Goldie things over here. I'm going to do them all at once.
Very well.
Before I ask the two Pete Goldie questions, I have some Pete Goldie side notes here. And
before we even have the questions?
Yeah. Well, he puts the side notes before I even start the show.
Well, he's a scientist and a thoughtful fellow, so he provides us with footnotes at hand.
Well, what happened? If you weren't here last week, KROB gave Pete and Sarah a stack of CDs to listen to, you know, at home to relax to. And
he's like that.
Do their gardening.
Generous, spontaneous, lovable.
And so what the problem is that Sarah kept making these comments to Pete about the CDs, and he wrote them down, and they were ridiculous. Like last week, she said, it feels like someone's scratching the house, but it's just KROB CD. So we're gonna read verbatim what he wrote. So side note, KROB Music at Home, date 8 August 2003, verbatim. So we are still listening to that stack of CDs KROB gave us. Sarah's recent comments as follows. I quote, I no longer can tell when the phone is ringing.
That's just the beginning, Sarah.
The oven buzzing or the alarm is going off.
Now you're penetrating to the heart of it, eh?
These are the problems I'm listening to KROB CDs, is that like all other noises are just part of the CD.
The sonic tapestry.
It's like KROB moved in.
It is, isn't it?
I hear him all the time now.
You accepted the CDs, you must pay the price.
Sometimes Sarah just blurts out, KROB, is that you? Keep that one for prosperity.
Yeah, when did she say that?
Yeah. Here's the last quote, unquote. That boy has some talent.
Yeah!
True enough, and it can be acknowledged so often.
He does have some talent. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you've noticed or not, tonight's theme has been a very barren wasteland for KROB to kick in with the little occasional etc. and so forth. But
how can that?
he does play all the music and the underlying background tracks for the show live with cassettes and samples and other things. And he doesn't actually know how to play the keyboard, although he has a gigantic keyboard in front of him with weighted keys. He can't actually play the keyboard, but he can do a marimba solo like on command. I just say marimba solo, and he's right there. Right here he goes, marimba solo. Yeah, well, sometimes that's funnier than that, but that was kind of funny. So we're gonna, Kirby Digglebear asks, can you explain the scientific reason why sandals and socks don't work? No, it's not true. Warmth and ventilation. What more can you want? It's just
The entire purpose of the sandal, at least today, is to air out the foot, but the sock contains the foot. I happen to be writing a book on socks at the moment, and yes, I am. I'm writing a book called The Meaning of Lost and Mismatched Socks. It should be out next year from North Atlantic Books.
I'm ready. I'm ready to read that book.
And in the sock and sandal section, I make the claim that...
You really have a sock and sandal section?
Well, the book is still in preparation. The manuscript, I don't know. Maybe I'll do that. There are a number of things. Trying to make this ghastly topic interesting. But sandals and socks don't work because they are a tautology, a contradiction, an oxymoron. The foot is... enclosed, and yet it is free. It won't work, and you look like a nerd. So, unless you have a terrible case of foot odor, which many people do, lose the socks or the sandals. You know, as a side note, which I will include, many people have the sort of holier-than-thou idea that people should take off their shoes before they enter your house. Because you want to be Japanese or something. You don't want the crudity of shoes trashing up the house. Well, this is all very well until someone with acute bromidrosis appears at your door.
Bromidrosis?
And then a horrendous wave of foot odor will permanently contaminate your house. So in some cases, it's better to leave the shoes on, eh?
Bromidrosis.
I have an example of it.
Oh, well, no, we don't need an example. I'm sure everyone can remember, has an olfactory memory of...
Has anybody ever been on tour with the circus? We didn't have a bromatosis. We didn't have that word. We just had, Justin! Oh my God.
Well, let's continue.
Okay, we have 2 questions from Pete Goldie. I was going to put in with the other Pete Goldie stuff, but I'm drunk.
All right.
I have not worked in years. Globalization or just plain lazy? Question number 1. And question number 2 are, times are rough. Once I sell my body for money, can I ever go back to being an aquatic macroinvertebrate taxonomist?
Answer to number 1. You have not worked in years. Globalization or just plain lazy? Neither. As I pointed out earlier, you have learned to finesse the system. This is what everyone should do. Then, times are rough. Once I sell my body for money, can I ever get back to being an aquatic macroinvertebrate taxonomist? Well,
Macro taxonomist
it
invertebrates.
depends on the market for a macroinvertebrate.
Sarah's been listening to KROB for weeks.
You know, folks, there are such things as macroinvertebrates. For example, the giant squid is one of them. That's a fairly hefty macroinvertebrate. There are also things that are about the size of a 2-year-old child that otherwise resemble a sow bug and live on the bottom of the sea. Those I would also call macroinvertebrates. But as far as taxonomy is concerned, that is to say, listing and describing them, the financial returns in that are somewhat weak. But selling your body to science when you die is not such a good idea if you don't want to be played with in unpleasant way by medical students who do Skylark, as I've said on other occasions.
What's Skylark?
They play their medical student pranks
Butt
with your
darts. They
corpse.
play butt darts.
They do
Butt
worse
darts?
than that.
Yes.
They have you on the table all flayed open, and then they put the wrong organs inside just to play games with their peers, and they do other things less
That's the most
speakable
fucked
than
up
that.
thing I've heard in a long
It's
time.
pretty bad. And so when you give your body to science, remember, science is not the impersonal thing that you think it is. It is a creation of people, and people are nasty. They do bad things. But science is a good goal. Of course, there's another way to sell your body, but that wears you out. And at the end of a long day of prostitution, you're not going to have much time left over to be a macroinvertebrate taxonomist.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Orange Box Man
Ah, the Orange Box Man special.
is,
We have it again.
Dr. Owll Show.
Now we've got a
Hello, it's
voice.
Dr. Owll Show.
I can't understand the word.
Could you please take the phone out of your ass? Your phone's working fine, sir. What's your question for tonight, for Dr. Owll?
It's funny how phones used to work so well in the 1940s.
Hello?
But today you have that. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Can you call us back from a landline?
Or a
From another
landmine.
system or something?
Oh. All right, enough. Let's keep going. We are
Long distance burping.
Yes, well, the burp that travels.
The Orange Box Man is a regular. He's kind of an
That's
irregular.
right. He's a regular fellow. Regular clothes, a regular appearance.
Except he lost his .com job and he got a job at McDonald's thinking it was some kind of an performance art thing or something.
Or maybe he can make it so.
Maybe he can, or maybe he's just a loser who's working at McDonald's. I mean, it could come true. You could become that loser working at McDonald's. It's not like a place that you can visit. It's not, you can visit the place and then decide to move in. You know what I'm saying? Which is what I'm afraid is happening since he's been working at McDonald's for more than 6 months at this point. I think it's like increasing his dating pool. So anyhow, his question, the Orange Box Man. Since I have started a job supervising a team of assistants in an acupuncture clinic, several people have tried to persuade me to quit working weekends at McDonald's drive-thru. These people don't present cognitive? No, C-O-G-E-N. Cogent arguments. Dude, you stayed up late looking up a word that you were going thesaurus, click, but keep telling me that my reasons for quitting McDonald's should be intuitively obvious. Can you be intuitively obvious? Or is that a double?
I suppose so.
All right. I figure I can make better use of the extra income that I can of the extra free time. Am I wrong? Am I missing the point?
There's no point in needling your employees just because they feel your time could be spent doing something better. Perhaps they envy you, your simple job at McDonald's, and they dislike to meet the public in this way, at the other end of an acupuncture needle. Of course, you want to vet such jobs so that sadists don't get a position there. Your question wanders up and down and all around Robin Hood's bar, and it's difficult to find what the actual interrogative part is, but at the end it says, am I wrong? Am I missing the point? I think you are not wrong. I think you have found the point, and in writing the question, you have come to the point. But as soon as you can quit working for McDonald's, the better.
doesn't seem like it'd be very fun. Why don't you come up and get a shot at Burnett?
Oh, there are
Everybody
many.
can look at you because that's what you want.
There are many.
This is the guy who got a job at McDonald's.
All part of experience, part of the grist from the mill.
Is that what it is, experience?
It is experience.
You know that
It can be valuable experience. Right.
is that what it's like? You know, the Buddha teaches us, let's drink plenty of coffee, that experience, the Buddha, how's this go? The Buddha teaches us that experience is what we end up with when we don't get what we want. So what is it that we really want?
Well, not to have no experience, surely.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Dr. House show's closed, because we're gonna answer the last few little questions real fast, and then we're gonna get on to this movie thing. Are you guys excited to see the movie? We have a question here with a ring for you.
Oh, well, that's all very well.
No, but you
Oh,
gotta
stop it now. Where the
No,
ring?
you
Wear
gotta
it.
open it.
Wear it.
It's a question mark. Right?
It's the questioning ring.
Very well.
You need a hammer?
I need
It's from Robin. On hot days when I leave the window open and lie on the couch perfecting my slack, the flies fly in repetitive geometric patterns in the center of my room. Why do the flies do that? Give me that. You say how to work.
Well, I can do it.
I'll show you how to work one of these things. You just drive. Hold on. Bring the car back, KROB. We'll drive
On
over.
hot days, I
Gets that?
lie on the couch, perfecting my slack, the flies fly in geometrical patterns in the center of the room. Why do the flies do this? Because they are fruit flies. And that's what fruit flies do. They socialize. Oh yes, question mark. I see. Very good. They socialize by making these same repetitive geometrical patterns. It's their way of enduring the time that they spend upon this earth.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that snuck in here after I took the sign away. The sign that are new, when I take the sign away, that means that we don't have any more time.
You can always turn the picture over. All right,
We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there real quick, though. Here, right?
Maybe.
Jimmy the Chink. He's got a question here. In a public restroom, what is the proper directional orientation of the sanitary toilet seat border, and why? Flip in front or flip in back? Should you leave the seat up or down? I think that's what he did.
But no, he says the sanitary toilet seat, which I think is the cover, which comes out of a dispenser and you can use as a sort of costume cowboy hat. You can do that better than putting it on the seat. You're trying to put between your buttocks and the public's seat a symbolic layer of paper. Why? Because you're trying to convince yourself that you are not one of them, but special. You flip it in the front or flip it in the back. This is a matter of your choice. And your personality will dictate whether or not you do it. Not knowing your personality, I can say either one.
This is from...